Shabbat Shalom. If you want to hear about Beha'alotcha, which is the parsha of the week, the parshat Hashavua, you are invited to come tomorrow to Shabbat. I'm not really going to talk about it tonight. Cool. Havel and I are on the same page then. Cool. And for those of you who have been keeping up with current events, Israel launched a massive series of airstrikes overnight last night against to destroy the Iranian nuclear program. In contrast to the war that began on October 7th, that seems to have been some kind of a failure of imagination, of intelligence, of listening, of thinking it through. I found it unexpected, and it seemed that most Israelis found it unexpected for that matter. In contrast, this particular outbreak of war, this has been something that has been discussed and talked about and theorized and batted about and considered for 20 years. I remember there were questions about would they or wouldn't they and when would they and what have you when I was in college studying the Middle East and military history, and we were having these conversations when I was a sophomore in 2005. And so it's a remarkable thing, I think, on some level, if for one who follows the region or reads about it or takes it in or cares on some level or has family or friends or people that they love and adore or whatever, to open this particular chapter of armed conflict as it pertains to Israel. I wanted y'all to meet my best friend, Will Gardner. He was supposed to come to the installation. He couldn't make it because his mother-in-law was injured and had to have surgery, and so he had to stay with the kids while his wife, whole story. Anyway, he has a PhD in mechanical engineering, and he works in weapons systems, classified stuff. And I remember talking to him after he got the current job that he has, but before I was ordained as a rabbi, so this must have been 2012, 2013, about this same possibility of a strike on Iran. I figured if anybody would know about it, maybe he'd let slip a little something. And so I was asking him, first of all, could the Israelis pull this off? Could they do this actually? He said, look, he's like, I work in this stuff and I have a clearance, and he has a clearance actually that's so high I can't even know what the clearance is called, let alone what the things are that it's protected by. And he said, honestly, I don't know. He said, I don't know the answer to that. He said, there are a lot of estimates for and against and whatever, and you can play the thing out in a number of different ways, but he said, I don't know. And I remember having the conversation with him about, do we think that would be a good idea? A strike, an Israeli strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities. And again, what I appreciated from him, and he's a fairly strident guy with fairly strong opinions about the world and politics and all of these things and whatnot. But what he said again, and I still hold this, is he said, I don't know, but the thing is for you and me, it's not even knowable. He said the intelligence that would dictate whether such a thing is merited, required, smart, just, whatever, however you want to parse it. He said, you and I and the talking heads on TV and all these people, none of us are party to that. He said, it's not in the realm of what's knowable to mere mortals like you and me. And he said, even the people whose job it is to know this thing, the highest up people in the CIA in our country and intelligence and counterintelligence, he said, they got their guesses and whatnot. They also projected, I think it was 20,000 dead in the first days of the Six-Day War in 1967, Israeli dead. That didn't happen. For what it was worth, Israel's own defense command prepared 15,000 body bags for the aftermath of that strike they prepared to launch on June 5th, 1967. They were prepared for 15,000 dead immediately. That didn't happen. That wasn't what unfolded in history. And so, I don't know, I've been talking to people all day about this conflict and the strikes and what is unfolding before our eyes, not just from a sense of, what do we think we know, what's a good idea, what's my take on it, what's your take, whatever else, all of that stuff. And, is it made possible by the Trump administration or by the destruction of Hezbollah during the Gaza war, or what intelligence made this work, and what's the role of the Houthis in this, and on and on and on and on and on. And you can sort of parse it and turn it from all these different directions and angles. It's like one of these little crystals or prism of some kind where you turn it different ways and light comes out of it in different directions and different colors. And there's a significant element of not knowing. Think about the difference this afternoon and some of the triumphal news reports I was hearing. Round one of the Iranian retaliation, there were 5 casualties. And then suddenly that was 60. I was thinking about October 7th when the news was coming in that something bad happened, and there may have been 100 casualties. And then it was 300. And then it was 600, 700, 900, and it just kept coming, and it kept unfolding as the day went on in this horrifying, nightmarish way. And so what's even knowable right now is a really big question. I imagine there are those of you sitting with us this evening probably thought this was a great opportunity for Israel. I'm not sure I would argue against that. There are those of you who I imagine feel that this is a tremendously reckless and immoral thing, and how dare they? And, that's a hard argument to take on also, because of so much and how much is not known right now. I was thinking about this against the backdrop, actually, of somebody in our congregation, a cancer diagnosis recently, and us talking about the not knowing. And this person was saying, I'd rather get really, really bad news than not know. I believe that. I'm finding that in this place, I can turn it over and over and over again in my brain like that prism, like a crystal, see the light refract in all the different ways over what might be the different strategic approaches or solutions, or what might be on day 2 or day 7 or what have you. I can do that, but I find that I keep thinking about my friend Roy Yerushalmi in Telmond and what's going to happen with him and his restaurant that he owns. And I think about my friend Almog Arazi, who coaches handicapped basketball in the center of the country. He's the one who just got me that Israeli amplifier I've told you some of you about. He owns a couple of recording studios in Tel Aviv. What's going to happen with his studios and his work? Is that going to dry up and die on the vine? Or his handicapped basketball league where he volunteers as a coach? As it turns out, not all of the bomb shelters are super handicapped accessible. And so as a result, anytime there's any kind of conflict like this, they absolutely cannot get together and meet to play ball. And so think about him. Those are just 2 guys. And there are so many other folks. And there are even Iranians who I imagine don't particularly think highly of that government or the Revolutionary Guard Corps or any of the bad actors that are part of this conflict as well. You've seen them in the different revolutions, and you've seen Iranian militia violently put down protests. That's not a place that's monolithic of thought, of sentiment, of feeling about their own ayatollahs, for that matter. And how many of them may lose their lives tonight? I don't know. So I find that I'm just sitting with a relentless feeling of not knowing. It's a horrendous feeling of worry and a concern. It's a hope that all the people who have plotted this out have dotted their I's and crossed their T's, and that this is a smart move on ways that we won't come to understand probably for years to come. But I don't know that. hoping that, but I don't know that. Against the backdrop of this thing and the idea of epistemological humility, of the not knowing, turned to an Amichai poem that we visited back at the time of the high holidays. I was thinking about it both from the valences of certainty and not knowing, and also thinking about it from the valences of what even is possible, and the bombing and the striking of places underground and hardened targets and people in shelters right now as we speak, trying to shelter from the rain of destruction. Both of those valences, I feel like, superimpose onto this in a way that's really striking. From the place we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole in a tunnel, like a plow. And a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood. I read that for those resonances that brought it back to mind in sitting with day one post the strike on Iran. But I also brought it because of the contention that it suggests that Amichai, an Israeli poet, died I think in 2002 or 2003 or something. He hasn't been around for some years. But the way he wrote about this, I so appreciate the idea of a whisper being heard in the place where a ruined house once stood, that perhaps greater clarity or forward motion or greater understanding comes from the place in which there are these doubts, that maybe not only is it okay to be in a place of not knowing and unknown, but perhaps that is a place that is sacred and has a certain kind of sanctity to it. It's what's sitting with me right now. And that's, I guess, what I'm hoping for right now as well. Trying to remind myself that amidst the profound vastness of that which is not known and cannot be known and will not be known for another 12 hours or 24 hours or week or 5 to 10 years until the historians have written the books on this, and there can at least be a whisper heard in the place where a ruined house once stood. That the idea of doubts and not knowing, perhaps from that place there can be love, there can be sanctity. Perhaps that's the solace and that's the respite to be found in the not knowing. But for now, I'm going to give the last word to Hashkivenu, as we prayed earlier. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, God, hapores sukat shalom, the one who spreads over an encompassing sukkah, a dome, a covering of peace. Aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim, upon us, upon all the people of Israel and over Jerusalem in the meantime. And we'll dwell with the unknown for a little bit longer. Shabbat Shalom.